Hello everyone! Today we're going to be working on a recipe for our upcoming backpacking trip that I'm really interested to do, and that is homemade yogurt bars with blueberries, and we'll be freeze drying them. It's really exciting to make your yogurt from scratch, from homemade, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. So for this recipe, you're going to need 2 quarts of heavy whipping cream, 18 ounces of fresh blueberries, 8 egg yolks, and 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this stuff on the stove. Alright, so we have our 2 quarts of milk, 18 ounces of blueberries, and xanthan gum, and our 8 egg yolks. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the heavy whipping cream, the blueberries, and the egg yolks, put them into the pot, slowly and gently heat it up to 180 degrees. No reason to go any higher than that. You don't want to break your cream and have it split on you. And then at around 170 to 180, we'll start dissolving the xanthan gum into hot water, so it's not like just dumping a whole bunch of the gum into our mix. And that should thicken everything up. After it all gets to 180 degrees Fahrenheit, we'll go ahead and let it sit until it goes down to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. And at that point, we'll add our mother culture, or in our case, store-bought yogurt that has the cultures that we want to have that will help make this go from cream into actually being yogurt with a little bit of incubation time. So I'm going to go ahead and get the process started and let you know if there's any tips or anything that shows up along the way. So for these homemade blueberry yogurt bars, one of the things that we need to do that will help the freeze drying process is kind of, because I'm not going to completely freeze these before we put them in the cream, we want to break up the skins and just make it easier for the water to leave the blueberry. And I figure the smaller the chunks, the more homogeneous the mixture, the better it's going to freeze dry overall. So we have our 20 ounces of blueberries. We have just a small food processor. And then once I'm done processing, I'm going to go ahead and just dump it in this bowl. So let's go ahead and see that in action. And so I'm not going for like a complete, blend. I'm not trying to blend this at all. What I'm trying to do is just, coarsely chop every blueberry that we have. So that's kind of what I'm going for. You can see, quarter sections of blueberries, big thick slices. It's obvious that they are still blueberries, but it's nowhere close to a blueberry smoothie. Alright, so now we got this all chopped up, we're going to go ahead, put a pan on the stove, add our cream and xanthan gum, and get it heated up to 180 degrees. Alright, and so then we've got our cream, we've got our blueberries. It's time to add the egg yolks. Okay, so now we've got our eggs in there, our blueberries in there, and our cream. The only thing left we have to work with is the xanthan gum, but we can go ahead and do that when the temperature is around 150 to 170, because then we'll have hot water, hot xanthan gum, and hot cream, and we can just go ahead and mix it, and it should mix together very quickly and very well. So temperature is very important for the next step. So get a thermometer that you can trust. If you overheat this stuff, by even just a little bit, your cream will break on you and you'll end up getting, curd whey and fat. It's a gross process, so it's not something you really want to do. So have your best, most accurate thermometer. An electric thermometer would be great, and you won't have any issues with your temp. So what we're going to do is we're now going to heat all this up to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, 150 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll add our xanthan gum and hot water mixture, stir it all up, let it come up to 180. Once it hits 180 degrees, turn the heat off, and then we'll let it cool down. If you want it to cool down faster, you can put it in your sink in a water bath, but I'm going to let this one air cool. And when I said 115 degrees, we'll add 3 tablespoons of the culture that we're going to be using, which in our case, I think is Chobani Original Greek Yogurt. So let's go ahead, turn on the heat, get to work. All right, so I got my hot steamy water. And I'm gonna go ahead and get my level 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum. Set that aside. But it sets up pretty nice, pretty quick. And now this is ready to go. So let's go ahead and go back to our pot. All right, yeah, so that's right about 160. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my xanthan gum. Alright. And then just keep on mixing. Yep, and that right there is 180. So burner comes off. And then I'll probably stir it for another couple minutes as the temperature starts to come down. Once it's at 175, I usually stop and just let it sit. But I don't want anything to even think about sticking to the bottom until the temperature starts going down. And then I know there's not a substantially higher, heat or a substantially higher temperature at the bottom of the pot, like if the burner was on. But anyway, so we're gonna let this cool down from 180 degrees Fahrenheit to 115. And then once it's at 115 degrees Fahrenheit, we'll add 3 tablespoons of our either homemade yogurt or Chobani plain Greek yogurt. And then it'll be time to start the incubation. All right, so we're right around 115 degrees, so it's time to add our mother, which is the source of the good probiotic microbes that are going to process this pre-mixture into yogurt. And I'm going to add just 3 or 4 because it's a little bit too. I'll add 4, why not? 3 and 4 big tablespoons. If it was Greek yogurt, the spoons bowls would have been, higher. There would have been more yogurt in there. All right, now that it's all mixed up, we're ready to go ahead and put it into our molds, and then we'll get it on the incubator. And for this batch, just because of personal taste, we're gonna let it incubate for about 24 hours. So we added our source culture to our yogurt mix, and now I've got the molds that we're gonna be using. Because we're going with a bar shape, bar form factor, we have bar molds. I haven't done the math to calculate the volume, but they're about a half cup for each one of the bars. And the way that this is set up is we have just a cooling rack with a reptile heating pad. You can see right there, 8x12. On top of there we have just a regular baking sheet, and then we have our molds. And so this is the lead to the thermometer, which is right here. And when it is plugged in, you can set your desired temperature. So in this case, it's 108 degrees. And once it hits 108 degrees, as detected by the lead on the thermostat, it will actually remove power that's going to the heating pad. So this is gonna keep our yogurt at around 108 degrees while it incubates and grows, and the yogurt making process actually occurs. I'll also put a towel underneath and 2 towels on top just to retain the heat. And I've had great success with it in the past, and I expect it to work just as well this time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start pouring. The whole recipe made about 10.5 cups, which means we should have plenty of extra. So I'm just gonna go ahead, and these are clean but ungreased. And let's see, there's 1.5 cups in this measuring cup when we started, so I'll be interested to see. This should be about 3 bars, right? So it looks like they're a little less than half a cup. And I'll also be putting wax paper on top of these bars. And you probably can't see it, but the temperature shoots right up when we pour on the yogurt mix. So anyway, I interrupted myself with the thermostat. We'll be putting wax paper on top of these just to keep the towels out of them. All right, look in half. Yep. And that's right at 4 bars. So I think we're at 4.5, 1.5, 6. 6 cups total fills up this tray. For the most part, I just try to get everything level and as full as possible. And with that, we'll put the wax paper on it, put the towel underneath, 2 towels on top, and then we'll be done. All right, so it's been 24 hours. I've had these bars incubating around 107, 108. So let's go ahead and take this blanket off and see what we're dealing with. Boom, 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 boom.
Where's she?
You see them?
Whoa, it's so purple.
Yep, they are very purple.
Yes.
And they look yogurty. Oh, they look and smell yogurty too. Awesome. Well, I think you've got a good thing here. So we're gonna go ahead and freeze these and pop them out and get them in the freeze dryer. Nice. Man, they smell good.
Yogurt bars, we just gotta freeze them now.
Yeah, that's right. Looks like they came out really well.
Okay, it's been 41.5 hours so far.
Wow.
And these are the bars.
Nice. Holy crap.
Yeah, I think those are gonna work good. Now we're gonna end up trying to coat these in chocolate. So what we're gonna do right now is just stick them in the oven to try and keep the humidity off of them. And we're gonna check out these other things. Okay, so we are warming up 10 ounces of cacao butter. And then we have already prepared and measured out 4 ounces of monk fruit sweetener. You can use Swerve. And then we have 6 ounces of coconut milk powder. We have 1 ounce, well actually not an ounce, we have 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract in this glass. And then we're going to bring the cacao butter up to about 120, 125 degrees, and then add the powders to it and stir them all up. And at the very end, we'll add the vanilla extract, and then we're going to be ready to coat our breakfast bars. So we're going to move on, and we're going to add the sweetener. And at the end, you can taste this, and if you want a little sweetener, you can always add some liquid stevia to it. I go faster with a hand mixer. Okay, so once your sweetener is fully incorporated, then we're going to add the powdered coconut milk powder. You could use just normal dairy cream powder. And we'll probably hit that with the hand mixer as well. Okay, so this is basically our white chocolate ganache. Check the temperature again. And we have this turned down to low because once it hit 120, that's all we wanted. And check the temperature. We're going to go ahead and turn it completely off. It dropped a little bit, which is no surprise with adding those ingredients, but you know, it's going to have latent heat there. It's a little over 120. We hold it long enough. And so now we're going to let it cool down to about 85 degrees or less, and then add the vanilla extract and let it cool a little bit more than that. We'll get the bars set up on a rack with some parchment paper laid out and get ready to coat these in white chocolate. And it's definitely thickened up a little bit. Just what we want before we put it on the breakfast bars, which are in the freezer. I put them in the freezer about 30 minutes ago. Out of the freeze dryer, they stayed in the oven for a while just so the humidity hopefully was more stable, and then we put them in the freezer. So now we're going to add our 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, and we're going to stir that in. Okay, and I find that in using the monk fruit or swerve, even though we're using the powdered sugar version, a lot of times there's still just a slight graininess, but you know, it's a small trade-off for the lack of all the sugar. Okay, so now we're going to bring out the bars. All right, so we're going to get some of these out, and we're just going to do 1 or 2 of these and pop them in the freezer and see how it goes. These are the bars, and that's not artificial coloring, that's just blueberry color. So we're just going to get that coated, and then we're going to fish it out. And we'll do 1 more like that. Pop these in the freezer right quick. Okay, we popped those in the freezer for a minute just to accelerate things for the video and to kind of move things along. And, you know, dive in here and see. Man, that's an amazing blue color from the blueberries. Yummy. I think the chocolate coating may be overkill for backpacking breakfast bars, maybe more than it's worth. It's yummy, but we're just continuing to develop this product. And if you've experimented with yogurt bars or other breakfast bars, then share some insight in the comments, and thanks for joining. Remember, if you can, get up, get out, live a little. See ya.